Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 4 of our podcast, Tabletop Game Publishing, The Success Formula. This show's brought to you by Hero Time, your friendly board game manufacturer. We put this whole series of audio videos together to help game designers like you get your game made.
Hey guys, welcome. Once again, this is the 4th episode from our podcast that we talk about the producing their games and everything that you might need to know if you are to develop your game and if you want to produce it. I built this podcast with Hirsch. Hirsch is the CEO and owner of Hero Time, a board game manufacturing company from China. So the insight from him is really, really valuable. And in this 4th episode, we will continue working on the quotes that we left the last week. But we're doing this two specific questions that we got regarding to how do you feel, or better saying, how you find that the company that you're trying to work with, it's a really trustful one. And the second one is a question that I always got is like, okay, I'm doing my game in a multi-language, typical Kickstarter maybe campaign. So how come we will do that, and how it's cost saving doing a multiple languages game? So stick around. Thank you so much for following us. Remember to subscribe to our channel, and well, we will see you around. Thank you.
What do you expect on the other side, on the manufacturing side? You know,
I think if I was a game creator, and maybe people don't know it about me, but like the reason I got into this industry is because my brother came up with his game, and I was living in China. I was doing like clothing QC for like random stuff, and then my brother is like, "Hey, I designed my game. I need to produce it. Can you help me?" So I was like, I never produced a game before, right? It was like 7 years ago. So I was in the same position as everyone else in this industry. But I had an advantage that I lived in China. So I could travel all over China, and that's what I did. And I went to all the different areas where they manufacture paper-related products, packaging, to find the right manufacturer for board games. And I went to all the big ones, and I went to also some small ones, and nobody was able to give me answers to my questions. So it was terrible. It was a terrible experience. So that's when I was like, I told my boss at the time, "Hey man, I have something else to do," and I started Hero Time. And I think the first thing that you want your manufacturer to do is be transparent and knowledgeable. And this knowledge cannot lie only with one person in the factory or in the organization. This knowledge needs to be decentralized and distributed across all people that work there, right? So if you ask a question from your rep, and he's like, a little vague, because the guy doesn't know what he's talking about. So I think that's like a first sign of like, okay, maybe they don't exactly know. Like what happens is, and that what happened to me is like, oh, my rep doesn't know, but the factory knows. I trust that the factory will do well. But then like the rep doesn't know what to communicate to the factory. So like in my first game that I produced in the Guangzhou, which was actually like one of the top factories that we have, like the boards were not very flat. I'm like, didn't you think about it?
yeah,
Like
should it be that simple actually for board game
Yeah,
design?
but the people that you talk to, they don't necessarily understand games and they don't know production, so they have no idea what's happening after their sales process. So I think that was like a first sign. At least it was a sign for me to know, okay, the knowledge of this industry needs to be distributed. And then the second thing is like, how fast is your rep, is your project manager getting back to you, right? So this is also, how long does it take to quote a game, right? How empowered, and I think you should look at it this way, like how empowered are your project managers, are your reps? If they can get back to you with a quote within like 2-3 days, meaning they know what they're doing, right? Meaning not only they know what they're doing, but they have the power in the organization to make decisions, right? Because
Yeah.
most factories, the way they work is a sales rep sends to a translation team, the translation team sends to a quoting team, the quoting team sends to 10 factories to get a quote, and then they send it back to you. So it takes
Yeah,
like 2
well,
weeks.
as you share your own experience, I share my own. When I was looking for my game about 6 years ago, I reached out the biggest one, and when I asked them for the quote, they gave me a reply 15 days later, asked me for a lot of stuff because I didn't know about quality and everything in that moment. So I asked one things again, and 10 days I get the answer and ask another thing. It took me about 2 months to get the reply, and actually it was funny because even when I was already producing my game, I'm still getting quotes from different manufacturers. Like some of them take over 6 months
Mm,
to
to
quote,
communicate.
and yeah, it was weird, and communication. Well, you said transparency. Surrounded communication is like everything. The communication is always
Yeah,
the biggest, most unprofessional looking that you see when you contact someone and says, "Okay, I don't get a reply." This doesn't sound like professional. So
exactly. And that was the first things that I needed to solve, and thank God I managed to. Then like you have all the backend operations, so you really want to see like the documentation that the factory sends you. If the documentation, and I'm not only mean like the quote, where's your files, how you confirm your files, right? Like they have e-proofs, you don't have e-proofs. It's like, okay, like I had a guy, actually my cousin, who's making like chocolates. I know it's a different story, but he has like a chocolate line, and he designed the bag to store like the chocolates inside. And he had an initial design, and then he had a final design, right? And the final design is a lot better looking. But he unnoticeably sent the initial version of his files to the factory. There was no confirmation, there was no like
it
e-proofs.
was straight.
Okay, we go to production. He gets the bag, he's like, this is the wrong file. So he's like asking me, Hirsch, how do you usually avoid it? And I'm like, yeah, you need to make sure that you get a confirmation of your files before print and you have a look at it. So this is like one. Then you have like sample issue reports. Like when you mention a few things about your prototype with sample, do you get like a issue report, like a proper report that is recorded in a centralized location to make sure that all the people in the organization, as they work on your quote, are familiar with the problems? Or are you going back and forth by email with this guy, right? It's another like small detail that people don't really notice, but I think that is a very professional matter. So yeah, another one is like terms and conditions. Like this is one of the first things that I did, and I
To
don't
put
know a lot of other
to put
factors.
the terms and condition in your website. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone
So
can reach it out.
yeah, and like you never know where does your responsibility end and where the responsibility of the manufacturer starts. And they like to keep it gray because if anything goes wrong, they can say, oh, it's your fault, it's not our fault. Oh, it's because you did A and B. But if you have like clear terms and conditions, it shows that they're actually responsible and they actually take um, they actually want to make sure that the project comes through forward. And I'm not talking about like this terms and conditions that you get when you sign up to a new software and it just has like a million lines agreement service. I'm talking about like a
It's not
proper,
a ChatGPT terms and
yeah,
condition. It's a well understanding, a small one with the as you said, to try to avoid the grades between the light and the dark. I mean,
exactly.
yeah, yeah. I read
So
it a couple of times and I think it's great actually. And
there's a lot
everyone can
of
reach it on the website.
yeah, everybody can go to the website and click terms and conditions. This is the obvious stuff that people see. Another one I would say is like, how does their factory look? That's a good question. Like, did you ever see their factory?
Oh, I have a great experience on that when I went to China. I saw this amazing nothing factories, even though they have the prettiest website and they have the greatest booth on a show and everything. When I get there, it was just a cargo store, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of those actually.
So,
There's a lot of experience. So
yeah, so that's a very, very important. And unfortunately, in our industry, there are like 5 actual factories that you talk to, and then the actual factory. Most of them are just like agents outsourcing your game to the lowest bidder. So you really want to be careful with that. For our YouTube, we have the videos about the production. We have the Forest. And you remember he came last year. He visited China. So he came to the facility and he took all these crazy videos. So you can also
Crazy
see
things
that.
about how stuff works.
Yeah, and
And I
also
like,
like
by the
a
way.
walkthrough of the factory. I think I'm gonna make also maybe a few new videos to show the new machines and how they work. But yeah, like know how it's actually being made and by who. I think it's also a very important point. Um, Even if you come to China and that agent takes you to a factory, it's not necessarily his factory. Like, does he sit there? Does he have an office there? It's a question that people don't necessarily think about. But that's the way China works. So yeah, I'd say like on the front
Transparency,
end, yeah, on the
communication.
transparency, communicate. On the front end, I mean, that's how you can notice if somebody's professional or not. Obviously, on the back end, there's a lot more stuff that goes on, but we don't need to dive in it today. We can dive on it in a separate day.
Well, you can fill 10,000 podcasts about it, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, the second question regarding to quotes also, it's about the design, especially specifically the insert. Should I design my own insert, or I should let the manufacturer to design it for me?
Short answer: manufacturer. Even so, it
Okay.
costs us more. I mean, if you have extremely complex insert with a very high requirements, like 3, 4 layers, this layers for this layers for that, then obviously you want to design an initial concept and then the manufacturer can work off of it. But if your game is relatively simple, like you have like 7 components, nothing too crazy, then you can have the manufacturer make it, because we do have like a design team that specializes in insert design for the game. Because there are also like limitations to inserts that the end designers are not really aware of, like what is the thinnest wall thickness you can do, what is the deepest depth you can do, and how narrow it can be, like, do you want to have many slots, or do you want to have one big slot? So there's a lot of detailed nuances that the factory people, the professional like insert designers know. So you can definitely let the factory design the insert for you. Yeah, I don't think that will be a problem.
Okay. Even though if it's cardboard or plastic, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, both of them.
Okay. Well, the other one, it's well, actually, I'm interested itself myself on this. It's how about multiple languages? I mean, how about when in this World Wide World, you have this thing that you may end up doing 3 languages game, not just one. So
Yeah,
how do you
language
handle that?
packs.
Yeah.
Language packs more challenging. Usually, like logically wise, they're priced at $150 per sheet of printing, more or less, right? It
Okay.
could be 120, 150, whatever, but it's like anywhere between like 100 and 150, depending on the size of the component, and it will be per plate, like per print run, so per sheet. So, for
Not
example, if you have
okay.
100,
So
yeah.
I have this question. You mentioned per print, but it depends on how you handle the text, right? Because I have my own experience in my game that my supplier told me, you should keep all the words in black, because if you do your words in different colors, you will end up having a huge setup cost on each language. I don't know if it works like this. Maybe this
It,
manufacturer were like
it
that.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense, but it doesn't really make sense. Like, it does make
Okay.
sense, because if you have 4 colors, obviously you need to change the CMYK. If you have only black, maybe you only change the black. But we don't treat it that way, because when you do like printing, just to set up printing takes like an hour, and the printing machine runs 10,000 sheets an hour. So yeah, it's just like setting up the print, stopping, calibrating, going for it. So yeah, if you're like very tight on money, I don't want to go into those, like, it's very minor details.
No, but
Um,
it's really
but it's
important
it's
because
a solid point.
people think that, okay, I will change in 3 languages and it will not be that expensive, because I
Oh no,
ordered
it's very, very
5,000 copies
expensive.
of my game, but they want 1,000 of each language. So it's a 5,000 cost price. If it's 1,000 cost price, if it's 5 languages, that's one thing that
It will
people need
be,
to be aware of.
yeah, more or less will be depending on, yeah, this is actually in our organization, we approach it in two ways. It also depends a lot on how different are your like games, right? So
Okay.
like if you're an experienced publisher, you would use most of the components in your game will be language independent, and then you will only have like if one sheet or two sheets to print with a new language, right? Like the box and like a deck of cards, and the rest of the components will all be in the rule book, and the rest will be language independent. And in those cases, yes, you can price it per sheet, like, and I repeat per sheet because like if you have 130 cards and they use two sheets, so it will be 150 plus 150. It will not be 150 only. So it's important to know per sheet. But yeah, if you have your game that every component in it is language independent, is language dependent, then in that case it's just going to be another price quote.
Another game, like
Another
two
game,
games.
yeah, a fully, because yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't make sense to break it that way.
It is interesting. It is interesting if you have this thing to solve at the beginning. It is great to ask the supplier how it will handle it, and by showing the game, like this is my game. I have this guy in Germany. True story. I have this guy in Germany that he will do the German edition. So what should I do? And yeah, you should get, as you said, as many components independent, language independent, and that way you will get better numbers. If it's not, they're just two games. And
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah. But I want to repeat, actually, I want to go back to the point you mentioned about the one color for the text. Theoretically, it can lower the price. Yeah, it can lower the price theoretically. But I haven't seen a lot of people that do it.
Yeah,
So
I did it. I did it with my game, but it was challenging. It took me a lot of time to redesign a lot of stuff to hold everything on the right spot, even though if it's in German or Spanish or in English, it was in the three editions. It took me a lot of time on design. And I don't know if too many people, I'm a designer myself. I'm a graphic designer, so it wasn't that crazy to do it. But I don't know if a game designer that doesn't have the knowledge of how to handle Illustrator, or in my case, InDesign, because I use data management for the three languages. I don't know if too many people do that. I did it because I knew that it was a cheaper option to produce. Because I made my first contact with my manufacturer. All this is in Argentina. Well, it was for an internal job, but yeah, my communication was top. It was really, really important in that stage, in the initial stage, because the guy that contacted me says, if you do all this, it will be cheaper. So it was okay. I will do it. But it was a first contact that it gives me this
Yeah,
idea of
yeah.
of changing only the black. And it was quite challenging because I need to use rich black in all the design, but on the text I need to use 100% K. So it was quite challenging.
That's why I say it will say,
Yeah,
yeah. That's why I say
maybe
don't
too
like
much.
that's a detail. Yeah, it's a too
Yeah.
minor of a detail already to dive deep into as a game designer. Also, you will not save so much money. You will save more money by making uh,
More copies.
language independent. Oh no, language
Well,
independent
yeah,
components.
yeah, probably.
Thanks so much for listening. This is Tabletop Game Designer, The Success Formula, a podcast by Hero Time, your board game manufacturing companion. Don't forget to follow and subscribe. And check out our website, herotime1.com. You'll find the article we talked about in this episode, plus a bunch of other cool stuff to help you get your game on everyone's tabletop.